Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07 on O'Connor and Company. People very excited to be back. People letting me know that they missed me, and I missed you too. And thank you for being patient for me over the Thanksgiving holidays. A bit of an extended vacation, but we're back now and ready to plow forward well into 2026. I'm not taking any time off that I know of until like after summer of next year. So we're all back in place here where we belong. Thank you to Andrew Langer and Hans von Spakovsky and everyone for filling in, and really for Julie Gunlock and Patrice Onwuka to prop those guys up while I was gone. Thank you, Julie. It's good to have you back. Or it's good to be back, I should say. I have you back, I suppose, but only because I was gone. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGenova will give us his legal analysis of what the Seditious Six have done, and also about this anonymously sourced story that, honestly, I'm not trying to give too much oxygen to, because you know, the more oxygen you give to anonymously sourced stories that claim that Donald Trump has done something illegal and impeachable, and then it turns out that none of it is true, well, it just encourages more anonymously sourced stories. But we'll ask Joe DeGenova about the legality behind all of that. Also, 8:05 brings us former U.S. Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, and then at 8:35, Scott Jennings will be our guest. Always good to talk to him. Julie, welcome back.
Thank you.
From your Thanksgiving holiday. Well, you actually took a couple of days off.
I did. Yeah. I was on Monday, but I was off on Tuesday and Wednesday, so caught up on some sleep.
There you go. Amen to that. So let's talk about Minnesota for a minute. There's a lot going on up there. President Trump, I don't know if you saw this. President Trump put out a Thanksgiving post. You know how he does his Thanksgiving, his holidays.
Yeah.
A very happy Thanksgiving salutation. He used the word salutation in this post on True Social and on X.
So formal.
To all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world, for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. This is his Thanksgiving note. And I'm sure there are many people who will, college professors at liberal arts universities, who will step aside and say, wait a minute, this is outrageous. We're supposed to be talking about the Pilgrims. You know, the Pilgrims were immigrants. They were illegal immigrants, by the way.
Right.
And they were welcomed with open arms. The official United States foreign population stands at 53 million, according to the U.S. Census, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. This is the Thanksgiving message from the president. Here's how you know it's something else. Stephen Miller was reading this after he posted it, and Stephen Miller was like, geez, dude, maybe you should tone it down a bit. Come on, man. Anyway, buried deep into this very long post, he talks about Minnesota and the Somalians. He says, as an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressmen, women in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab, and who probably came into the USA illegally, in that they are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she was treated when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. That is one long-on run-on sentence, and I know for a fact. Let me just say, commas are working overtime in that sentence.
Oh, dear, they really are. But where's the lie?
Well, they can't fact-check it, so they decided to focus in on the fact that he used the word retarded to describe Governor of Minnesota Tim Walz, and that's become a big controversy. Now, let me just say, this is a matter of personal choice. I choose not to use the word retarded. Well, here I'm using it only in that it is part of the story. All right, but for everybody, there were people on like cable news and on network news over the weekend who were talking about this story, and they would say the R word or they would say, blank or something. It's like, oh, you're such a moron.
Nobody means to in any. First of all, that is not a word that's used for the developmentally disabled. It is not a word that's used for anybody.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. It was, it was. There are a lot of words that have sort of changed, but the actual definition of retarded is delayed, right? And so I understand why people use it, and but it's also sort of a controversial word to use. But I'm so tired of these, you're a terrible person if you use the R word.
Right, we don't live in that world anymore. And to treat it like, one of George Carlin's 7 banned words or, a racial slur or something, it's ridiculous. That's not what it is. And I don't use it personally. Because people, texted me or DM'd me about it. Don't you have a child who's developmental? I do, actually. I have a child who's on the autism spectrum. And yes, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, people would refer to it as retarded. Although, see, here's the thing. I don't use it because as a child in elementary school, there were mean kids who would make fun of the children who were special needs.
Yeah.
And use that word to hurt them. And I didn't like that. And that's why I don't do it. But now the word is used not to hurt children or individuals who are developmentally disabled. The word is used to accurately describe somebody who is a little off, who isn't supposed to be off. Someone like Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. It's used as an insult.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also used
to people who don't have an excuse.
Also to signify someone who's being really stupid and making idiotic decisions. And I actually used to not use the word until I had 3 teenage boys. And let me tell you, Larry, there are times where I'm like, "Are you retarded?" I mean, it's just comes out.
That's right.
So
you don't have the excuse.
I actually in no way mean. I'm not throwing around insults at that community, but I'm tired of language rules and things like that. There are certain words that I understand we are not to use, and you shouldn't use certain words, but things like this, I get a little tired of the expansion of that list.
And by the way, Barack Obama was, he's so charming and he's so real. Remember when he was talking about the bowling alley he installed? He didn't install it at the White House. Oh, yeah, they put there was a bowling alley in the White House. Actually, I think Richard Nixon is the one who put it in there. It was the biggest scandal since the ballroom, right? And he was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, Barack Obama was, and he said that he's using the bowling alley, but he said, it's pretty bad, though. It looks like the Special Olympics down there.
Oh, right.
And everybody acted insane that he was making fun of developmentally disabled. And I was like, no, he's not. That's everybody calm down. And I'm no Barack Obama fan.
Right.
All right. And so we're not playing the speech police game over here. That said, there's something seriously wrong going on in Minnesota. And I think President Trump was right to draw attention to it and to point out that, we'll pick it up from there about what's going on in Minnesota. Even the New York Times has pointed out that there's major problems in Minnesota, all under Tim Walz's watch. Tim Walz is not developmentally disabled as far as I can tell. But if he were, at least he'd have an excuse for his behavior, and then it would be wrong to call him retarded. But in fact, he's not. He's just a really, really incompetent Democrat. Mm-hmm. 6:15 WMAL.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Brought to you by the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. We guide you home. NATCA.org.
So, yeah, there's something seriously wrong going on in Minnesota, and President Trump was right to point it out. Can I just pause for a quick second here? As awful as Tim Walz is, and he's a laughingstock, he's a joke, he's a punchline, and the New York Times even has uncovered this major
scandal,
benefits fraud scandal that centers in the state of Minnesota, where Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General there, have completely ignored it and allowed it to happen. Yep. Partly, I think, because it's rooted in the Somali community. So, you'd be racist and xenophobic if you pointed out crimes going on within the Somali community because, they're just like the Pilgrims.
No, it's because it's not. I honestly don't think it has anything to do with that. I think Tim Walz has no concerns about racism or if this appears to be racist if they look into it. It's because it ultimately is a loop that goes back to supporting Democrats running in Minnesota. It supports his party. So he doesn't care. He loves it. Are you kidding? And tackling it, it's not a matter of him like thinking honestly about like, does this reflect badly on the Somali community and should we really put a spotlight on the Somali community that they're trying, and yes, there's this fraud, but really I want to support the community. No, it's just that it supports his candidate. So he's perfectly fine with the corruption and fraud.
You're right. But can I just point out my favorite part about this whole thing, and it ties our last topic to this one. Yeah. When given the choice, Kamala Harris still picked Tim Walz over Mark Kelly. Over Mark Kelly.
And Shapiro.
Remember? And Shapiro. But this, because since Mark Kelly's in the news and Mark Kelly wants to be president, Mark Kelly is acting like a moron. Imagine being Mark Kelly and realizing that you lost out to Tim Walz. That's Kamala Harris.
Mark Kelly has to be going, was it the hair? Is it the lack of hair? Honestly, I know I look like a cue ball. Is that the reason here?
I think he looks more like Gollum. He looks like
yes.
Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. All right, so here's what the New York Times has uncovered. Fraud, big-time fraud, ugly fraud, billions of dollars in fraud, rooted to state benefit programs and all funneled through various community organizations that are supposed to be helping the Somali community, and you're right, are all huge funders of Tim Walz and his party. Here's Kristen Welker with Tim Walz yesterday. Meet the press.
Well, speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his
Hold on. Pause that. So, I'm sorry, President Trump is now the publisher of the New York Times?
Right. And he's targeting them? Right. Did Trump write this story? It's so weird. I did not know that Trump was a journalist at night.
This is
in the New York Times.
Literally a New York Times. Do you know what it would take to get the New York Times to write this story? How fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch is the headline at the New York Times. Byline, Donald J. Trump, apparently.
It's unbelievable.
So there's the question. All right, so let's continue the setup there, Kristen.
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this.
Pause that.
Just really quick. She then goes on. So she blames Trump. Trump is targeting them.
Right.
But then in the second part of her question, she admits they've been investigated and convicted.
Yes.
And so she literally says they've been convicted of this horrible behavior. But in the first part, who writes
Trump
these
who's
questions?
Targeted them. It's Trump.
Yeah.
Well, Trump.
All right. Sorry. Go on.
You're right. All right. Go ahead.
Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. There's a reason Minnesota ranks as the top. Lowest childhood poverty, best place for children to live. People are taking advantage of that. They're going to prison. That is totally disconnected with demonizing an entire group of people who came here fleeing civil war and created a vibrant community that makes Minnesota and this country better. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud. My God, there's a big difference between fraud and corruption. And corruption.
By the way, Tim Walz has been losing weight. I think he's on the Ozempic thing, the fat shot, I think Trump calls it. He's running. He's absolutely running for president. That's fantastic. We need him in the mix.
That voice.
There you go. He's. It's all about demonizing a community and not about. And by the way, this is Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, who probably is going to run for president as well. This was her answer over the weekend, too. When faced with this, the only answer is, well, here's the problem. Minnesota is so great and so wonderful that everyone wants to come here and steal our money.
That's right. So it's so well run that it's
attracting criminals.
Yeah. And ultimately that's because of Trump. It's I mean, you can tell there's, all of these guys have these crisis communications people on auto dial, right? And they come up with the same message. It's the same message. And honestly, Larry, for their base, for a lot of their base, just pivoting over to Trump, it works.
Yeah, and if they don't want to be demonized and they don't want to be othered and they don't want to attract people who say, why are they here? Why don't we send them home? Perhaps their representatives, people like Ilhan Omar and the guy who was running for mayor, perhaps they shouldn't attend speeches saying that they have more allegiance to the government of Somalia than they do to the government of the United States. Not that there is a government in Somalia. But the whole point of E Pluribus Unum is that you drop your foreign ties and you come here and you become an American. And maybe they should, start talking that way, and maybe then they won't be demonized. Really quickly,
while you were gone, one of the things that kind of started in this criticism after this New York Times article, and there's been more sort of focus on the Somali community in Minnesota. Now there's been this video that's gone viral showing how great Somalia is, how great it is. They show the beaches, they show the clean cities, they show children running and laughing and all of this. And the reaction to that video is then why are you here?
Go home.
Like, if it's
looks a lot better than Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a beautiful country. Why don't you go home? Why don't you?
Because there's a lot more billions to rob here in home, even in Minnesota. It's 6:24. Coming up, Trump says that everything Biden did with the auto pen is null and void. Can he do that? We'll talk about it next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:37 now as this Monday morning in your nation's capital continues to plow straight ahead. Face first. It's the first day of December. Thanks for joining us. Larry and Julie here for you. And coming up at 7:05, Julie, we're going to talk to Joe DeGeneva. Did he behave himself while I was on vacation?
Barely.
Right. Well, it's good. You got to watch him. 8:05 brings us the former chief of Capitol Police, Stephen Sund, and then at 8:35, Scott Jennings, rising star there in the right-wing media world. Some want him to run for Senate in Kentucky. Would you be in favor of that move?
No, because he does such great work on CNN. I don't want to lose that.
Stay in the media where you're really influential. Senate, please. So as you know, Joe Biden utilized. Well, I should let me reframe that. I'm already giving you disinformation here. I apologize. At least I call myself on it. Joe Biden did not use the auto pen. That's the whole point. If there's an auto pen, the president isn't around. So it wasn't Joe Biden using the auto pen. It was people in Joe Biden's name using the auto pen. Pretty much his entire presidency. An unprecedented number of pardons, executive orders, and other official documents from the executive branch were executed utilizing the auto pen, and through various levels of congressional testimony, it appears that there wasn't a whole lot of control over the use of that pen, or for that matter, knowledge by President Joe Biden as to how, when, and for what purpose the auto pen was being used. And this weekend, President Trump, he was very busy this weekend on social media. He put out a statement saying, and I quote, "Any document signed by Sleepy Joe Biden with the auto pen, which was approximately 92% of them, is hereby terminated and no further force or effect. The auto pen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. The radical left lunatics circling Biden around the beautiful, resolute desk in the Oval Office took the presidency away from him. I am hereby canceling all executive orders and anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden, because the people who operated the auto pen did so illegally." All right, so I think he can do this. We'll ask Joe DeGeneva. Excuse me. I'd love to ask Joe Biden. But no, we'll ask Joe DeGeneva, who joins us at 7:05. But I'm pretty sure that, especially when it comes to an executive order, any president can undo the previous president's executive orders. Oh, they'll find a judge to try to block it.
Of course.
But the question really comes down to pardons. That's the real question here. Yep. About whether those pardons can be reversed. And I think the only way you can test that is to, charge someone with a crime and have them try to use the pardon as a defense. I think we should start with Anthony Fauci.
Yes, please.
That's the only way to test the constitutionality of these auto pen pardons, is to actually charge somebody with a crime and then have them come into court and say, I'm sorry, Your Honor, you can't charge me because I've been pardoned.
That's right.
And then let's see where the chips fall. As Trump wrote in his statement, the auto pen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given. And it certainly appears through the testimony that there is not a paper trail here, that there was not a methodology in place to make sure that the approval process was given for the use of the auto pen based on the committee hearings that the Oversight Committee has engaged in.
Well, again, it is so frustrating, I think, for the American public watch just all of the corruption that happened in the Biden presidency. And there's no costs. There's no consequences. No one pays a price. I'm not asking for a perp walk, although that would be really nice. Fauci, perp walk, sounds great. But when do people go to jail for doing this kind of stuff? The auto pen scandal, that is, again, this is so dangerous from, the very people talking about the fall of democracy are basically controlled an auto pen of a cognitively declining president.
Right.
Where's the outrage? And again, where are the investigations?
Thank you. All of the senators who put together an ad trying to admonish members of the military to undermine the chain of command and to ignore lawful orders under the guise of, and that's the whole thing. It's like, you must ignore illegal orders. Okay, so by saying that, what you're really doing is undermining lawful orders. Oh, no, we specifically said illegal orders. Yeah, but even in retrospect, Mark Kelly won't define what a legal or illegal order is. So they're doing that. Yet at the same time, they're supporting the clearly illegal behavior of the prior administration and saying that it's Trump's fault for calling it into question, for shining a light on the illegal use of the auto pen, the illegal use of the auto pen for executive orders and for pardons in an unprecedented way, and they didn't say peep about it.
Well, one of the saddest things is on some of these stories, like the Seditious Six. Like, if you look at X, you look at some of the comments under like a story, a breaking story, something that, yet again, is just horrible what they've done. You see this narrative out there on X among right-wing people who say nothing will happen, nothing will happen. There'll be no consequences. No one will pay a price. And, it is demoralizing. One more strongly worded letter from a committee chairman that results in nothing, a Department of Justice that does not indict.
Trump's trying to do something here at least. Trump is saying that everything that was used, that the auto pen was used for, is now null and void. Coming up at 7:05, we're going to ask former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova if that's good enough, if Trump can do that, or if there needs to be some other step. It needs to be challenged at some point, and then the courts will weigh in, I assume. But we'll ask Joe about that at 7:05. Right now, it's 6:43. Speaking of the auto pen, on this Black Friday weekend, Joe Biden was spotted in Nantucket. They like to vacation in these very expensive, elite northeastern places. They went to Nantucket for Thanksgiving. And do they stay at a millionaire's house when they're there? A billionaire's house? Do we know?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure that's where they stay.
And here's the weird thing. Joe Biden tried to follow his wife into a shop, and they caught him like on the steps, sort of peering in the window and knocking and stuff like that. And it turns out the shop that former First Lady Jill Biden, she's a doctor, PhD, the store that Jill Biden ducked into there in Nantucket was a lingerie shop.
Oh, dear. Do I want to know?
And I'm looking at some of the stuff in the window here. There's a picture, and it looks very lacy, very seductive.
Yes.
Kind of
lovely.
I mean, it's the kind of. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have certain
look,
items that women find their favorite items that fit their body just right. And I have to get my bras from here, or I have to get my panties. So maybe it just so happens that the stuff that Jill likes happens to be in this little boutique lingerie shop in Nantucket. I'm sure that they're granny panties. I'm sure that there's nothing seductive going on here. She's 74 years old. That doesn't mean she's dead.
Life isn't over. Life isn't over.
Absolutely not.
Look, I will tell you.
She's got to prepare for the future. She's got to find herself an Onassis or something.
Often these boutiques offer services like specific fittings and very high-end lingerie that really fits well. So, yeah, we'll just leave it there. We should rejoice in happy marriages.
Yes. That they have a very happy and fruitful marriage. Although, I mean, can't she just order stuff online and have it delivered in a plain brown box?
Can't she have a personal shopper? Seriously.
Thank you. No, so this was obviously a photo op, and they were all, trying to show themselves to be out in the public,
young
and
and vigorous,
small businesses, because she's going to be running soon for president, I'm sure. But why a lingerie shop? Why of all shops did you have to choose a lingerie shop to conjure images like this and to just throw it out? It's like throwing red meat to the lion's den.
It's one of these ways in which they're suggesting that he's still got it, right? And she still wants to look sexy for him. And
speaking of that, speaking of still got it, and what your main focus is in life right now, Joe apparently is not interested in seeing Jill in sexy lingerie, because he's got bigger fish to fry.
Oh, really?
He was asked by a reporter, or it's caught on video. I don't know if a reporter asked him this or it was just some passerby in Nantucket who was accosted by the Biden people, who said, "Hey, what are you up to these days?" And here's what he had to say.
Thank you so much for your support. By the way, I keep pushing as hard as I can. I know. Thank you so much.
If you missed that, he said he's pushing as hard as he can to get more U.S. funding for Ukraine. Has no one told him that he's not president anymore?
Right. Does he know?
Does he? I don't.
There were some other videos leaked of him, and man, he is. That sort of frozen stare he has.
Yeah.
And that sort of
very
robotic
well
walk.
It's
a
cheap fake. Meanwhile, while Joe Biden's pretending to be president and doing things for Ukraine, Secretary of State Marco Rubio actually was working over the weekend with Steve Witkoff, saying that they're still dealing with the U.S.-Ukraine talks over the Russian war, and they said it's productive, but they're still looking for a deal. There's what's really going on, not lingerie shopper drooling on the sidewalk in Nantucket saying, Ukraine. It is 6:53.